Hello everyone and welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about some evidence that we have not talked about before in reference to the ambush August 12th, 1967 of Pauline Mullins Pusser and Sheriff Buford Pusser. So back in 1985, on September the 17th, the former director Steve Watson with the TBI sent a letter to Jeffrey McLeese of the Baltimore Police Department, and it had a brief description of the ambush, and I want to read just a little bit here about that. He says in his letter that all the bullets were fired into the driver's side of the car, and that's a little bit disturbing to me. I am a formally trained crime scene investigator, an intel officer with the military, retired, sheriff, 35 years sworn law enforcement experience. But I wanted to show you some photographs the old-fashioned way. This is a photograph of Buford Pusser's car where you can clearly see two entry holes on the passenger side behind the rear door, a larger hole and a smaller caliber hole. So I'm going to hold this up to you here, and you can see I placed a graph, bullet hole chart graph here. This is what a 357 would look like going through sheet metal, and you can see the aggravation and the protrusion. This is a larger caliber, possibly a 30 caliber or a 40 caliber, that size. But you can clearly see the aggravation and the tearing of the metal as the bullet penetrates through the metal. Over on the car, the larger hole here, you can clearly see the indentation and the ring around it. And then it's harder to see, but it's the same way on the smaller one here. Now, I've got a different picture here I want to show you of the car compared to an actual large caliber weapon going through a panel of metal. So you can see the tearing and aggravation around the metal versus how smooth, and how this on Buford Pusser's car has an indentation and a ring around it. So these are, to me, these are obvious entry. Now, we have a discrepancy in the amount of bullets that were fired into the car. In the same letter, former Deputy Director Steve Watson suggests that there was 5 fired into this area, 2 into the dash, 1 through the windshield, and 2 into, there, the car. Well, when you do the math, it adds up to 10 bullet holes. And their official record, as I understand it, shows 11 bullet holes. Now this obviously does not include the 2 that I just showed you, plus the possibility of a small caliber hole in the hood near the grill. So nothing's adding up on these numbers with the bullet holes. We go into the blood spatter on the hood, that small caliber hole that appears to be in the hood. I wish we had the original photographs. We could probably do a better assessment, but that could account for the blood spatter on the hood of the car where somebody was shot outside, standing in front of the car. So we have all that. We have the unaccounted bullet holes, or the miscounted bullet holes, in my opinion. The glass on the diagrams from a witness states that the glass was in the northern bound lane. Well, the car was traveling southbound, and that would put all the glass should have been in the ditch in the southbound lane where Pauline was sitting. So if the bullets came in the driver's side, which some of them did, and they knocked out the passenger front window and knocked out the passenger rear window, all that glass should have been in the southbound shoulder or in the ditch line. In fact, some of Pauline's brain matter and scalp and hair was laying in that ditch line, and there was no glass reported there. So that's not going to happen. And so that basically, that alone tells me that the ambush did not happen the way Sheriff Buford Pusser described it. In many interviews, he did several interviews with the press, one with CBS, where he reports the findings. He never gives the time that all this started, what time he left the house, what time he received the call, what time he arrived at the scene. Now, the TBI and Deputy Sheriff Moffitt stated that they believed it was between 4:30 and 4:45. Well, it wasn't until 1972 when Buford Pusser was under oath for a statement for a civil rights violation on a man that he had beaten, that he made the statement that the ambush was at or near 4 o'clock in the morning. So if he knew that all along, why is a TBI and his chief deputy reporting 4:45 in the morning? That's real important. The first thing you do as an officer, you're trained to do on all reports, they'll state, I arrived, I received a call from dispatch at so-and-so time. I arrived at the location at so-and-so time. That's the first two sentences of 99% of all police reports. So to be vague with that raises a red flag with me. So what we have here is Buford under oath gave the time of 4 in the morning. We do know from the Selma police chief who heard Buford Pusser mumbling on his car radio at 6:20 in the morning, and then they called for help to get the ambulance out to where he was at McCoy's store. So now you have from 4 o'clock in the morning till 6:20, that's 2 hours and 20 minutes. Well, somebody could say, well, what if it was 4:45? Well, I can just simply say, well, what if it was 45 minutes earlier than 4 o'clock? What if it was 3:15, which would give you more time? That would give you almost 3 hours. There's no way from the wound that he had across his chin, which I'll go into in just a moment, the blood that he was suffering loss of from the wound across his chin, he would have bled out in a couple hours. There's no way he would have survived. You can see from the picture on the stretcher that we have in our book, and it's on the internet, that he was bleeding quite heavily on the stretcher. And the folks that were at the hospital stated that he actually got up off the stretcher under his own power and walked into the emergency room. So there's another reason there that tells me that he was not wounded at 4 in the morning. He would not have survived it. The wound across his chin that I talk about, he says that his jaw was completely shot off and it was hanging down to his chin. Now, the scar across his chin does not reflect that type of injury, nor does anybody that we talk to remember Buford having his jaw wired shut. If you have your jaw blown off, you're not talking to the reporters and to the investigators that afternoon or the following days. You're going to be sipping through a straw and not eating any food. You have to have your jaw wired closed in order for the bones to heal for that type of injury. And nobody remembers seeing him, and we haven't seen any reports that his jaw was wired shut. In fact, it was just the opposite. 5 days after the shooting, he wiggled 2 of his bottom teeth loose and spoke to the nurse as he handed him the teeth to the nurse. She put them in an envelope and wrote on the envelope that Buford Pusser states that he wiggled these teeth loose, and then I collected him and basically put him in this envelope. And she passed him along to her supervisor. So that worries me a little bit too, because he had surgery. You know, the surgeons are going to shake his teeth and check his teeth and his tongue, the inside of his jaw. all that's going to be checked during the surgery. And at that point, they weren't loose enough to remove them. The question is, did he forcefully remove 2 teeth that may have been just a little bit loose that hadn't healed yet? That's what it would appear to me to be. So we have a whole list, a whole summary. I try to keep my videos fairly short, but I want to go over some more with you later on. August the 12th is right around the corner. That's the 58th anniversary of the murder or execution of Pauline Mullins Pusser. We do want justice for Pauline. We do want the information released so everybody can see what happened. In the meantime, if you haven't already read it, I'm going to lift my book up here. Murder of Mrs. Buford Pusser on Amazon. Just type in my full name, Oakley Dean Baldwin, or you can come to the Baldwin Stories. We have a author website listing all 31 of our books. So until then, see you next time, and thank you so much.